Good evening. I hope that Yom Tov was utilized to the fullest and that the koyach of simcha, many tzaddikim, when people came to them throughout the year and asked the tzaddik for a Yeshua, they would respond and say, how do you have your simcha on Sukkot? Because that is a mashpia and can affect every aspect of your life. I know that unfortunately we had terrible news on Shmini Atzeres of the tragedy, the shrekliche tragedy in Eretz Yisrael. Innocent lives, so many of them taken, and only the Ribono Shel Olam himself knows the cheshbonos of who and what and why, because we do not have the answers. And we are only able to thrive through the days of our lives with that package of Emunah to propel us into a position of understanding and surviving each and every day. Otherwise, how could we live? How could we pull through a day? So I'm going to begin this year for Parshas Bereishis, and this Shabbos is also Shabbos Mevorachim HaChodesh, Haba Oleinu L'Toiva. And I say to each and every one of you, Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazek, we have to strengthen ourselves. I always stress with you the koyach of tzedakah and how powerful tzedakah, as the Arizal says, supersedes every other mitzvah. And it's from the Kei Achroina of the Shem Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the Gemara says that it's Tatzil Mimaves, and it says Mevi Geula. It doesn't say by Shabbos or by Kashrus or by Tefillin that it's Tatzil Mimaves or that it's Mevi Geula. And that's what we have to strive for, that the Geula v'Yeshua, that we should be able to be Zochati Yemos HaGeula, Yemos HaMashiach, and turn the tide of this terrible sakana that Jews worldwide, there were cities that they were chanting in mass rallies, Gaz the Jews. So you see the matzav of the Welt with Klal Yisrael, that we always were the Keves Echod, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, special people. But until the Geula Shlema, we know that there is a stream, a history of persecution, expulsion, and many, many daily travails and difficulties that we have to pull through. I want also, before I begin the actual shir, to acknowledge Torah Anytime and their magnificent display of Kiddush Hashem by providing worldwide so much divrei Torah, divrei chizuk, divrei musar to Klal Yisrael. Now, I want to open with the fact that Chodesh Cheshvan, as the Bnei Yissaschar brings, that the only month that has no Yom Tiv is Chodesh Cheshvan. So you may ask me, but Teves and Tammuz doesn't have a Yom Tov either. But Teves and Tammuz have fast days, and the Navi Zechariah assured us that we are going to have l'sason or l'simcha all the fast days. So in essence, it's a Yom Tov, even though in Ton Mashiach it is a fast day, but it is a Yom Tov. But Cheshvan has no fast day or Yom Tov in it. Now, it says that when Shlomo HaMelech finished Bais Rishon, it was in the month of Cheshvan, and he wanted to have a tremendous celebration, dedication, inauguration of Bais Rishon. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, do not do anything. I want you to wait till next Tishrei. And indeed, that next Tishrei, in the celebration, Klal Yisrael ate and drank and danced on Yom Kippur. Because it was a tzivui from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself that that's when he wanted the celebration to be. But the Medrash says that the month of Cheshvan went up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, why was I denied the beautiful opportunity of having the celebration in my month? You pushed it off to the next Tishrei. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, because I am reserving you for the celebration of Bais Shlishi. And that's why there is no Yom Tov or fast day, because the month is reserved for that in and of itself, for the celebration of Bais Shlishi. And we know that distinction, that rare and remarkable distinction for Chodesh Cheshvan, links us carefully to the fact that the Arizal says that every Chodesh corresponds to a different Shevet. Ephraim is Tishrei, and Menashe is Cheshvan, and Binyamin is Kislev, meaning the children of Rachel Imenu, that she is called the Akeres Habayis, that all three Botei Migdash had their celebration and will have their celebration in these 3 months. As we just said, Tishrei had the celebration of Bais Rishon. Bais Sheni, the main celebration was Hanukkah, which was Kislev. And the Bais Shlishi will be in the month of Cheshvan. Now, on Simchas Torah, you noticed that the person who went Hagbah by night, because many shuls lane after the Hakofis of the evening, and after the Hakofis by day, there's also Kriyas HaTorah. And the person who goes Hagbah twists the Sefer Torah around and twist the Sefer Torah around that the klaf and the letters and the words face the tzibur. Why do we do that? So one of the Meforshim explained that since Yaakov Avinu twisted his hands when he had to give the bracha to Menashe and Ephraim, he gave Ephraim, who was the younger one, the more outstanding with his right hand, And that Menashe was with the other hand, even though he was the Bechor, and since he as the Bechor in essence, that when Mashiach will come, and we know that the number 8, all the Mefarshim say is L'mala min hateva. 7 days are in the week, but if you ask someone what's the 8th day, there is no 8th day. 8th is already in Shemayim. It's above and beyond. Now, Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah and in Eretz Yisrael, it's all one day. That is the Shemini L'mala min hateva, and therefore on Simchas Torah, it corresponds to Chodesh Cheshvan, in other words, to Menashe, and therefore we see Kel Es Yodov by the Hagba of the Sifrei Torah corresponding to Menashe, and that's why Menashe are the Osios. The name Menashe, Neshama and Mishnah. And that's the reason that we learn Mishnayos for someone who was Nifter. So Cheshvan is a special month that when we come into it and we have Shabbos Mevorchim this Shabbos, and on Sunday, Monday is Rosh Chodesh, that we are able to take off from the point of having the avodah of the month of Elul and the month of Tishrei and everything that it encompassed with the Tekiyah Shofar and with the Lulav and Esrig and the Mitzvah of Sukkah and everything that we experience, we take it in. Rav Moshe Wolfson, Zohar Gesundsein, the Mashgiach, always used to say that Habocher b'shirei Zimra, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses Shirei, which means the songs, but in the simple meaning, but he translated Habocher b'shirei in the Shirayim, that when a person gets done, let's say, davening with his slavas and with tremendous cheshek and with tremendous feeling, hergish, at the end of the davening, he has to sigh because he put out all of his koiches. That sighing or that ability at the end of an entire psuke de Zimra is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses more than anything else. That means after you got done running the marathon in Psuke de Zimra with Kavana and with Hislavos and with dedication, then the person's left in a state like breathless. That's Habocher b'shirei, Shirei a lashon of Shirayim, Zimra. And that's what we could say about Elul and Tishrei, and that's why there is nothing else in the month of Cheshvan, because you don't need anything else. After such a void of an entire Klal Yisrael, that carries the day for everything and everyone. Now, we have Parshas Bereishis this Shabbos, and the Medrash says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Borei Olamos Umachrivon, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu used to, he created many worlds and he right away destroyed them. Now, the Mefarshim are quick to point out that a human architect could draw up plans for a building or for whatever, and at the end take a look at it and say, you know, I think I made a mistake here, or I think that we should correct this or correct that. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is perfect. He doesn't have to create. He doesn't have to create something and then take a look at it. Is it good? Is it not? He's perfect. He would create right away. So why in the world would HaKadosh Baruch Hu have created worlds and then destroyed them? What's the purpose? He knew exactly what he wanted, and he could have made it to begin with. So the Meforshim say that the reason for this is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course, did not have to double check or go over the plans to decide if or if not he's happy with it. But he wanted that future generations in the world that he would create and would remain, that a person who tries and does and sees that it's not what he wanted or what it should be able to have the enthusiasm and the drive to try again. And that instilled into the Bria the power of giving a person the push and the initiative to look at effort that he may have spent a week, a month, a year, or 10 years. And it came out that for some reason it wasn't because of what he wanted or because of outside circumstances, not to throw up his hands and say, I tried and I'm walking away. Just like Rabbi Akiva, who lost 24,000 Talmidim, and they were all Tanoim, and they were as big as could be. And at that point, he could have said, look, I'm retiring. I had 24,000 Talmidim, and they're gone. So I'm not, but he didn't give up. He took 5 of the Choshev Talmidim, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, Rav Meir, and continued what he was doing before as if there was no destruction. Where did the power propel him to do so? And the answer is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu built worlds and destroyed them, and then came and did what eventually became our world. So it's like the mental capability and the capacity to rededicate and recommit and not be lost in despair. Now, in Parshas Bereishis, we have the words Ki Tov 26 times, but we do not have it by Adam. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created on the 6th day Adam, it does not say Ki Tov. And the reason for that is because everything else created in the Bria, all the birds, all the trees, everything created was created, and after it was created, that's what its purpose was. But Adam, not only does it not say Ki Tov, but he was given a name Adam, which is dust, dirt. Is that the name? I mean, he had Tselem Elokim. So why would we call him that? And why wouldn't we put the Ki Tov affirmation on him after he was created? And the answer is that Adam was indeed created, but he was not created as a finished product. That means a person has to take their life into their hands and be realistic, not live with a pipe dream their whole life. This is going to happen. This is how they're going to get rich. This is how they're going to deal in their day with 15-hour work hours, no learning, missing half the minyanim. But a person has to know that life starts and that we propel our days, our weeks, and our months, and our years for perfection. We have to grow each and every day of our lives in becoming better and more useful and more productive people. And that's why Kitov, because Kitov is only for an established, finished product, that it was good. And that was the whole creation. But not by Adam. And as a matter of fact, it says that on the second day of creation, that the waters were separated, the whole world was filled with water, and then Hashem put water in heaven and put water into the oceans, lakes, rivers, and seas, and it doesn't say Kitov there on the second day of creation. And the Meforshim explain, because Vayavdil, when there's separation, even for the best reason, many times, most of them, good cannot come out from it. Machloikis came out from the fact that there was division of waters for Shemayim and waters for earth. Because division is not a good thing. So then you would ask me, well, if that's the case, then why on the first day does it say Kitov? Hashem separated Or and Choshech on the first, excuse me, that Hashem separated Or and Choshech, that night it's only dark, at day it's only light. And that division wasn't there. And it says Kitov. So if you're saying division is a reason not to say Kitov, so why does it say Kitov on the first day? And the answer is because darkness and light and separating from it can be a very good thing. Many times people have a bad friend, and when they suddenly realize the influence that he says, let's do this, let's do that. Why am I with this person? The Chofetz Chaim used to make a Suda once a year on a regular day, and no one knew the reason he was making that Suda. And later in his life, when he was in his high 80s, like 5 years before he was nifter, he told the people, it was on this day when I was a youngster that I parted ways with a friend who was my best friend, but I realized that I was not going to end up in a good place if I continued the friendship. So therefore, I'm making a Suda on this day because that saved my life. That I parted ways with this bad influence and I stayed casual friends, no bad feeling, but I just got out of the relationship. So we have to learn that even though there was separation on the first day, but it's Kitov, because separation, when light separates from darkness, that's a bracha for the person who's able to recognize it and has the stamina to be able to push him into a direction of clear-cut division from the bad. And that's why it says Kitov over there. Now, on the question of why Adam was called Adam, dust, and we said because it's a starting point, it's not a finished product. Rav Moshe says, Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzaddik Livrocha, that Moshe Rabbeinu's name in the beginning was not mentioned in Shemos when he was born, because he has potential, but we didn't know what would come of him. So therefore, in the beginning, we don't even call him Moshe. We don't call him any of the names that were attributed to him until we saw development. Now, the Gemara says that there was a group of Amoraim, and one Amora told another Amora to take a bracha from another Amora, and he said to him, his bracha is Olamcha Tire B'chayecha, that you should see your world in your lifetime, which means that you should have all the schusim and all the reward for everything you did in your lifetime. So that didn't seem like a bracha, and he complained. And he said, this is a bracha? What do you mean? I'm not going to have olam haba, but I'm going to see all the good and reward right here in this world? So they answered him and said, you didn't properly understand the bracha, because the word olamcha could mean your world, which is what he understood. But it also comes from the lashon of helem, hidden, that olamcha, your hidden talents, traits, and abilities, tira b'chayecha, you should see them develop, prosper, and come to fruition in your lifetime, because it's such an outstanding goal for a human being to fulfill the abilities that he has, because most people don't. Most people, they lie back, they do this, they do that. They're busy patting themselves on the back that, they're at least doing this. I bake challah, I have a suda, I hear kiddush, I daven, all these things, men or women, and that they fall short of what they could do. And as a matter of fact, I'm saying this year because in one of my visits with the Amshnover Rebbe, who I'm very close to, let him be well, tzaddik, beyond tzaddik, said to me in one of my meetings with him, you're not giving enough shiurim, you're giving some, but not enough. So I started giving the shiur on YouTube and on Torah Anytime, and we hope that the hundreds that we reach, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is happy, that it's a nachas ruach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that the Divrei Torah in this dark age right before Mashiach, that extra learning and extra avoida by each and every person, no matter how small or how big they are, adds to the crown of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the nachas that he has from us. Now, we know that Adam HaRishon tripped. He was told that he couldn't eat from the Eitz Hadas. And as the Arizal says, he was told at the same time, because there's a kasha. It says in the pasuk, Mikol Eitz Hagon Tochal, that you Mikol, from every tree in the garden, Gan Eden, you could eat. Mikol means from everything. And then he's told, but not from that. So it's a contradiction. Is it from everything or is it without? So the answer is that says the Arizal, that he was told that he can't eat from the Eitz Hadas until the 3 hours after he was created, which means, let's say it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he was given the tzivui, Erev Shabbos, not to eat from the grapes. The Arizal says it was grapes, and that's why we're misakim with Kiddush every Shabbos and on Yom Tov, and we start every mitzvah with Berei Priya Gofen, says the Pidyon Haben, a Bris, a Chasna, Everything starts with Borei Priya Gofen as a ticket to those grapes, that grape juice or wine that he drank before. And so when the pasuk says, from all Mikol Eitz Hagan, it means after 3 hours, then you could eat from it, but not before. And the problem was he did not have the patience to wait the 3 hours. Now, he was, we call it Gan Eden, but really it was a madrega of Olam Haba, as the Arizal and the Kisvei Kabbalah say, that there's such a thing as Yemos HaMashiach, and that's the level of Gan Eden. And then there's Tchias HaMesim, which is higher. Excuse me. And then there is Olam Haba, which is the ultimate of what the whole world will be encompassed within at that point, which will be forever. And complete Ruchnius, that we call it Gan Eden, where Adam and Chava were, but it was really Olam Haba. And it was like the highest level. And had he had the patience and drank the wine 3 hours later and didn't lose his patience and do it earlier, we would have no cemeteries in the world, we'd have no hospitals, we'd have a perfect world with serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu and enjoying the basking in the luster of the Shekhinah and everything else that comes with it. But because of his impatience, we therefore end up in a world like we've had for 4,000 years of difficulty and everything else that comes with this package, like this terrible tragedy in Eretz Yisrael. And we hope for the Geula and the Yeshua that it should come soon and that it will revert to the Olam Haba of Adam and Chava before the Chet. So we have to learn that a lot of things that we do, if we were able to sprinkle and drench the inyan with patience, it would make a complete different thing. A lot of people are hurt by what somebody said, and the person himself realizes, what did I have to say this? You know, I thought I was just this, and they start rationalizing I was being funny. But the bottom line is somebody went home crying because of how you so brutally made a comment in front of everyone that you were devastated. So if a person would have had the patience to think before he spoke, even for the 10 seconds, a lot of things he says and does wouldn't happen without with the proper dosage of patience. So that's a very important trait that we should avail ourselves to, because it cost us the whole world. Adam and Chava ended up in trouble. And we know that Adam was cursed because he did that. Chava was cursed. Adam was bezeyas hapecha tochal lechem ad shuvcha el ha'adama ki mimenu lukochta ki ofer atavel ofer toshuv. And Chava was cursed be'etzev teil dibonim. Like this, she gave birth, it was a pleasure. Now a woman gives birth, there's pain involved in the process. And the Nachash eats the dust and does not pick up its head. No legs, no hands, no. So everything was cursed. But it says, Arura Ho'adama, that the earth should be cursed, and we don't see what the curse was. So Rav Shraga Feivel Mendelovich, who was almost the Miyasid of Torah V'das, the one who really had it flourish and everything, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he once said on this question that we don't see the curse for the ground. So he says when something in Olam Hazeh is not productive on its own, that's the biggest curse in and of itself. In other words, before the curse, ground could bring up the most beautiful, magnificent landscaping and magnificent greenery and shrubbery. But once this happened, you have to plant, you have to seed, you have to sow, you have to water, you have to, till you get that plant or that tree to come out. There's a lot. So on its own, it can't happen like it would have happened. So said Rav Mendelovich, Zechrono Livracha, that is the biggest curse that comes to anything in this world, that it can't produce on its own and bring its power of production out into full flourish. And that's why it doesn't say a curse by Adama, because the curse is in and of itself that the person does nothing. You see people with tremendous ability. I remember there was a girl that came into our Bais Yaakov, 9th grade. It was our high school. And she came from another elementary school, and the principal said to me from that other school, she slept by us for 8 years, and she'll sleep by you for the next 4. And I wanted to prove that he was wrong. And that girl who came in with a disastrous record card from elementary, she ended up a salutatorian because she just had to be cultivated and developed. And when a person brings out their talent and their ability of what they can do, it is the most gratifying and satisfying thing. And when I called the principal and said, you know, she got 100 on the region, the math region, the geometry in 9th grade, he almost couldn't believe it. He said, do you think she cheated? I said, absolutely not. Why do you? And that was the reason that I never allowed a teacher. In most schools, the teacher in the incoming class take a look at the record cards to get an idea who the students are. And I never let the teacher of the next year look at that card. Because maybe that teacher of the past year and the student didn't get along. Maybe there was a problem with the chemistry. Why did that student have to have inherited the negativity of her record card into the next, that you already set the mindset of the next year's teacher about the girl? So I wanted every teacher always to have her own impression and really to do it on her own without talking to and without looking at the, if there were family situations of sickness or problems, that you have to let a teacher know. But the opinions of a teacher doesn't mean that that girl had to carry that baggage the rest of her life. And that is why cultivating and bringing out the best of each and every person to your ability, whether it's the teacher, the parent, the friend, the chavrusa, whatever, is so important. Now, when Hashem created man, Adam Arishon, he said to the angels, to the malachim, Nase Adam, let's make man. Now, Nase means we, it's a plural. Hashem didn't need anyone's advice or help or whatever. Why does it say Nase? So the Meforshim say, because it's to teach us in our lives that in this world, a person should get used to consulting and asking for the opinion of others when they do something. That means a husband in the house could do something. It's his house, it's his domain. But if before he does it, even though he could do it without asking, if he asks his wife, what do you think of this and that if we do this and that? It creates good atmosphere. It creates a position of mutual respect by asking. And we see that, says the Shalach HaKadosh, that when Yaakov Avinu had the dream, after he was 20 years by Lavan, his father-in-law, he had a dream. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to him, leave your father-in-law's house and go back. Shuv el eretz moladatecha. Go back to where you came from. And we see that Yaakov Avinu got up and he went over, and there's 7 or 8 psukim that he's speaking to Rachel and Leah, justifying the move to go back. Now, if any of us had a dream and HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to us and said to us, and we knew it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it wasn't just some silly dream, we would jump out of the bed. We couldn't get to the car or to the airplane quick enough. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling us what to do. But says the Shalach HaKadosh, Yaakov Avinu, of course, could have done that and said, the Rebbeinu Shalom just said to me, and we're going. But he spoke with Rachel and Leah in a way to make them feel partners in the decision of going back, like a human being being given the full thrust of dignity and self-respect in that way. And that's what the Shalach HaKadosh says this. And that's exactly why the Vort, what the Meforshim say about Nasa Adam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't need their advice. But he wanted the Pamalya Shalmala to feel they're in on the idea, and that there was this discussion at least, or there was this comment of let's do it together. Now, the pasuk says, "Vayomer Kayin el Hevel Ochiv," that Kayin said to his brother Hevel, and then he got up and killed her. It doesn't say what he said. It says, Vayomer Kayin el Hevel Ochiv. But it doesn't say one word of what he said. So many Meforshim discuss this. And there's really 2 basic opinions about what happened here. We know that Kayin and Hevel, Kayin brought a cheap produce korban, and it was rejected, it was not accepted. And Hevel brought a fat, juicy animal, a first choice korban, and his was accepted. And Kayin turned, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Kayin, that you have to remember how lo im teitiv se'es, ve'im lo teitiv la pesach chatos rovetz. You're going to have to be good in your lifetime, or it's going to haunt you till your death. You'll never get away with bad activity. So some Meforshim say that Kayin turned to Hevel, Vayomer Kayin el Hevel, he said to Hevel just that. He said what Hashem told him. The first Musar shmuz that we find anywhere, be good or it's going to be very bad, very negative. And he repeated it to Hevel. And it's interesting that the Meforshim are so perceptive and and say that many times a person hears, he's sitting at a gathering, and the person, the darshan, is giving some musar, giving some divrei Torah. And when the musar comes up, the guy is sitting there thinking, oh yeah, what he's saying, that's my friend Chaim, exactly. This is for him. It's never for he himself. Cain was told, be good. It went in one ear and straight out the other. And he thought it was for Hevel. So the Mefarshim say, that's the Vayomer, that he said to him this Musar speech that Hashem gave him. No, this is for my brother Hevel. It has nothing to do with me. I mean, bad? What bad am I doing? Could I do them? And with that attitude, you can end up killing a brother. He turned in that same pasuk and killed his brother. And others say that they had a discussion about the division, the splitting up of all of the world. Cain wanted to know from Hevel, who's getting the gold? Who's getting the silver? There were no other people in the world. It was just the two. And here you had all of these natural resources, the lands and the everything. So the discussion, and they agreed on everything, except when they came, the Gemara says this, that when they came to the issue of where the Beis Hamikdash was going to be built, that is where they had the difference of opinion, and Cain got up and killed his brother over that. And again, the Mefarshim point out an eye-opener for us. Because extremism can cause terrible destruction. I mean, you see what's going on there itself. I mean, the Arabs, what they're doing, I wouldn't even call them animals, because many animals protect their own and whatever. But they are animals. And the justification under the shield and masquerade of religion. That means they become hotheads. There was a boy in Torah Vodaas. I was not there, maybe 30 years before I came to Torah Vodaas. And Rav Mendelovich said on him that boy will become a Reform rabbi. And this boy was the hottest head in it because of extremism, and he became a Reform rabbi in Los Angeles. Because extremism under the guise of religion. Oh no, this, that, And even some hothead in shul yesterday got up and said, well, Israel, most of them are Machal Shabbos. And I gave a clap on the table in front of the shul, and I said, in time of sakona, we are not mekatreg. We don't badmouth, and that's why it says that when a person dies or a woman is giving birth, they're in sakona. And if a person dies, everything they did is on the table in front of everybody. And down here, they should never say a bad word after the person dies, because that is makatrig and helps the machablim and the makatrigim against the nifter. So we have to find something either good to say or keep quiet. And it goes for a woman giving birth, because her life is at risk at the moment she's giving birth, and never should the person say something bad about her because it's makatrik. The Meforshim, the Chazal say this. They should say only good or say nothing. But we can't be makatrik b'shas sakona. And unfortunately, it comes from extremism. All this hard-headedness of these mishagoyim, these rotzchim, what they're doing, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will even the score, and He knows the score. Is from extremism. And that was what happened with Cain. He was debating where the Bais Hamikdash should be. Oh, and Hevel made issue of it. No, I want to have it. Get up and kill the person, the brother, because of a discussion about where the Bais Hamikdash is going to be. It's unbelievable. So we have to temper our attitudes. Our thrust forward in our Avos Hashem and our Yiras Hashem, but we have to remain under the umbrella of well thought out action and sensibility. We can't judge others because that at the end is what somebody came up to Shemaim, one of the Talmidim of the Mizrich or Maggid was talking about it, that the person came up to Shemayim and they presented him with 20 Averis that he did. And he protested and said, I never did these Averis. So they said, yeah, but you were talking Lashon Hara on that person, so you got his Averis, so you're being judged now for those Averis. So we are not just free agents with freedom for anything and everything we want to do, we want to say, we even want to think in molding and shaping our attitudes. So those were the two things that the Meforshim say was the discussion of the Vayomer Kain El Hevel Ochiv. Now, the Or Chaim HaKadosh talks about the fact that Shabbos, see, we go through every week Shabbos, so it's not brought out in its full luster in our minds of what a treasure it is. And that's the reason, the Meforshim say, that a goy who kept Shabbos is Chayav Misa. Why should that be? The Rambam says beferish that if a goy does a mitzvah, he decided on his own to go put on tefillin, he gets some schar for it. Because he knows that this is the will of the God, of HaKadosh for the Yid, not for him. But he's doing it because this is the will of God for some people, so he doesn't get the schar, of course, of a Yid, but he does get some schar. So why, if he keeps Shabbos, is it a death penalty? And the answer is because it is a matana. All the mitzvahs are a tzivui mitzvah. There's a commandment to do this and to do that. But when it comes to Shabbos, Shabbos was, besides being the mitzvah, it was Yismach Moshe b'matnas chelko, by the matana that was given to Klal Yisrael, that the beauty and dignity of Shabbos, which is the backbone, and as the Zohar HaKadosh says, Minei Mizborchen Kol Yomin, that all the days of the week carry its brocha and its hatzlocha from the preceding Shabbos. So the Or Chaim HaKadosh said that if there wouldn't be one Shomer Shabbos Chas v'Sholom in the world would never go into the next week. In other words, he says in this parsha, Parshas Bereishis, that the world was created for 1 week. And it's in the schus of Shabbos that we are given the next week to go into. So we have to work on the beautiful gift that we were given. Someone gives you a gift with magnificent wrapping and ribbon and everything. Well, we take it off differently than we would just open a regular box because it's so magnificent. and we would handle it differently. So the magnificence of Shabbos is brought out by the Divrei Torah at the Shabbos table, by the Zmiris, by the clothes we wear, L'Koved Shabbos, that we shine our shoes, L'Koved Shabbos. We do things, L'Koved Shabbos, to bring out in its fullest glory and beauty and dignity the koyach of Shabbos. So we should begin the year, and Tzaddikim used to say, the way you begin Bereishis, that is the pace setter for the entire year. So don't miss a Kedusha, don't miss a word of Kriyas HaTorah, and beautify and uplift and upgrade the level of your Mizbeach, of your Shulchan, of your Tish, of the Shabbos Suda, and add something, a new year, learn a Perek Mishnayos if you didn't every Shabbos. Learn one Mishnah. Take 10 minutes to make a difference in the level and the beauty of Shabbos for the upcoming year. And the Rabbanu Shalom should have Rachmanis on his people, and there should be a Yeshua Gedolah L'mala Min HaTeva in Eretz Yisrael, and that each and every day of this new year we will live up to the promises and the resolutions that we made on Rosh Hashanah. No more this, no more that. Let's see how at the end of 1 month, as Rav Pam used to say, don't wait a year to mark your report card. Mark it after a month. How are you doing? Are you living up to everything you promised and said? Have a year of Haba Lenu L'Toiva, a Guten Chodesh, and that we should be able this year to witness the actual Chanukas Bais Shlishi, with all of its inauguration, with all of its dancing, with all of its dedication.